Great. Another question concerning forms. That's a great question. There's two questions that came in that were like this. A lot of times I need to do fields or create fields that need to populate based upon a pull down or an entry. So I like to have control over the HTML of the form. It looks to me that the form builder builds a form for you. Does the developer have some control over the functioning and design of the new forms using the form builder?
Right. I think there's two actual questions in here. One is providing a secondary guide that interacts. So, maybe some JavaScript in the form where once something is pulled on one guy, he pre-populates, or maybe he's an Ajax guy or something of that nature. To answer that question, yes. In 1.9, one of the really nice fields that have been added to a structure, we could find doesn't matter. Let's find a structure here real quick. We'll add a field, is the custom field. And what this custom field does for me is I enter it, I give it a label, I check all my normal options, and then here in the value I can write whatever I want. Velocity code, HTML, JavaScript. So you could provide a field that is very custom where you could do whatever you wanted. Certainly could have JavaScript that's hooked to a field that's above it, or you can have a JavaScript listener. I mean, in that respect, you could do whatever you want. And because you have full access to velocity here, it feels very dotCMS-y, and you could really have control. In addition to that, controlling the form, the design of the form. The form does render using Dojo, and in that the form has a lot of Ajax pieces or some JavaScript pieces, for example, categories, things that pull many, many items, and we needed some type of JavaScript to happen there. So you could use your own guy. I mean, we provide a big macro that builds all that out. It certainly is a lot to handle. You have to handle all the different fields that you're using, but you could certainly build your own custom macro if you don't like our Dojo guy. You can use him as a template and build your own guy, but he spits out very nice looking CSS, very clean HTML, everything's styled, and everything, even when it does the tabs, it spits them out as just divs, and all the trails or crumb trail and stuff, just like the crumb trail works, it's all list items. So in that respect, you have full control of it with CSS, and you really can make it look via CSS however you need.
Great. I see that some more great questions have come in during forums. We're going to get to all your questions, I promise. One last question came in before the webinar concerning forms. Will there be a way to have a form submit the data without emailing the form? Occasionally, this particular user has a need to collect some data, but doesn't need to email out the data to anyone.
Absolutely. Well, as we go into the form email, just don't put an email in there. In that respect, the field is optional. If you don't put an email, it won't email anybody. If you do put an email, you can comma separate them, and it'll email everybody that is inside the form email. The nice thing is unlike a lot of form handlers where you got to send the email up in some kind of a hidden field, it's actually in the HTML. This is all server side, so it's all very secure. It's secure from little crawlers and robots and things of that nature. You don't have your emails embedded inside your form because this all happens server side.
Another question just came in over the chat. What about field validation? Is there any changes in our field validation or additions there in the new form handler?
Not really. The field validation has a number of preset options for you, just as it always had. So if we go look at, say, text field here, you still have the normal kind of no HTML URL pattern, but you can write your own regex in here. So, I mean, it's pretty flexible in that if none of our preset options, email, numbers, only alphanumeric, zip code, met your needs, you just provide regex validation.
Great. Another question came in. With the new form builder, is there anything to help you with creating like a function chain tool? I think that he is referring to some similar work that was being done in the past.
Right. At one point, we had it. It was never really quote unquote released. So it wasn't the API. We had some APIs for what we call the form chain, where you could take a guy and you could build all these different pipes, if you would, or different links that would form a chain. Not Not really. That API still does exist, and you still could use it if you wanted. I mean, obviously it's all programmatic, so you'd have to write a plugin, and it would take some Java to make that happen. Again, we never really released that in a UI. We never built a UI on top of that, and went through with that. I think that this, I guess the thinking is this solves what most people need. If you need some very custom stuff, you can certainly provide a plugin that can do that type of chaining, as it were. But you can build a nice form that has next step, next step, next step. Again, you just provide the different tabs.
Okay, great. Now moving away from forms, we're going to address some questions that came in on UUID and then just get to some of the general questions that have come in over chat. And thank you very much for submitting so many great questions. Concerning UUID and push publishing now, how will UUID affect a typical upgrade from maybe a 1.7 to a 1.9, JT?
Well, the hope is not at all. Uh, the reality is it is a pretty big shift. Now we do not upgrade we do upgrade you. We do not update the values of your older inodes and identifiers. If you had an old identifier in the system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we don't take that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and convert it to a UUID. We leave it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The biggest thing that's changed is it's technically, to give a technical answer here, it's went from being a number or a long to a string. But typically people aren't really doing math on these numbers, so it shouldn't make too much of a difference. We tried to make all the velocity tooling take either the number or the string. So if you pass it in as a number, it'll convert it to a string for you. So we've tried to be as friendly as possible. Hopefully it'll just work out of the box. We have seen it work out of the box on upgrading other sites. I'm sure there are cases. It is definitely the upgrade to 1.9 is definitely a pretty big upgrade. I mean, with what we've done with the permissions and the data here, and obviously, like always, before you upgrade, you back up and make sure you get a good backup and upgrade in a test environment and so forth. But hopefully, it'll just run.
Okay, great. There's some questions that came in that we're going to get some more generalized questions here in the chat. A question about Tomcat. Is Tomcat customized in 1.9 as it is in 1.7, or is it deployable in the standard Tomcat implementation?
It's the Tomcat that is in 1.9 is pretty similar to 1 and 1.7. We don't really customize it that much. There's just minor things that we've done. Obviously, when we ship with our plugins, for those that are familiar with our plugin architecture, and I know it's a pretty technical question, so it requires a little bit of a technical answer. But for those that are familiar with how we do plugins, obviously we affect the class loader and we load things differently, giving you the ability to override our classes and jars and JSPs and all kinds of things within there. A lot of power, a lot of flexibility. So we've kind of used our little customized Tomcat guide to achieve that. 1.9 is moving towards and is achieving where 1.9 will deploy in JBoss. We're working on WebSphere, Resin, Glassfish, and so forth, and in the standard Tomcat deploy as well. So we're doing some different things to solve the plugin issue that I was just talking about, so that you can deploy in kind of a standard war, as it were, 1.9.